Hello and welcome to Phoenix Cinema Podcast. This is a podcast where we discuss what's showing at the historic Phoenix Cinema, and this week we are discussing the Italian movie Alice Rohrwacher's new film La Chimera. And joining us today after his long hiatus, we're so happy to have him back, is Nathaniel Dombeck.
It's good to be here.
Good to have you back, man. And I'm Chris Austin. And yeah, so La Chimera. Talk to me, Nate. What did you think about this movie?
This was a real breath of fresh air for me. This movie is totally up my alley. It's just, yeah, there's so much about it that I really love. It's this wonderful little pocket of culture that I get to dip into. I feel grateful that someone put this together. The world that these characters live in is outside the world of my normal, and yet it's such a simple, beautiful human story that I felt like it was so easy to sink in and relate to what these characters are going through. In addition to that, it was shot so beautifully. The detail work on all levels was really delicious to sink my teeth into. And yeah, while it was simple, it was also profound. And I found throughout I was moved, and certainly the ending in particular I found very moving.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm so pleased. That you enjoyed it the way you did. That's great. Yeah.
What about you, buddy?
Well, I mean, do you know what? I'm trying to figure that out. I think I'm still trying to wrap my head around this film. It's very interesting. It's very odd. It's this very strange, experimental little movie. And there's certainly a lot that I appreciate about it. For sure. Aesthetically, as you were saying, I think on a filmmaking level, I think it's so wonderfully made, and what you were saying about, the culture of the whole thing, and what I love with these movies, especially the films that we've been seeing recently, is just being transported, right? Transported to a different place, a different culture, or even a different time. And yeah, in that sense, I've got to say, I love the locations and the architecture and the costumes, the production design. It was sumptuous. What you were saying, it's delicious. I really fed off of all of that. I thought that was really lovely. Really, really lovely.
Yeah, there in particular, just the environment and the locations. It was such an interesting mix of like lived-in village and also this lingering abandoned history, and just the way that these people inhabited these places in kind of a multitude of different ways, whether it was living in the village or living his little hut that he built on the side of a wall. It was eventually dismantled, and then I loved that interaction that became so meaningful later on between the grandmother and the student, where she was like, is this station owned by everyone or owned by nobody? And it really kind of felt like this place in Italy was kind of both. It just everything felt very communal, and that sense of history was really came through in a cool way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is another thing that I love about the film is exactly what you just spoke to. It's got this great sense of community
Yeah.
to it. And all the characters feel lived in,
So lived in, so full.
so lived in to the point where it's like, it's almost feels like, is this a documentary or am I watching like a narrative movie?
Absolutely. You know, I think about the parade that they have shortly after his return. And you've just been introduced to this group of people, and they're all dressed in drag, and there's a band, and then there's a tractor pulling this weird tub with greenery all over it, and there's just so many details that are entirely unexplained, but are just, you know, infer to such like this fullness, this like, I'm a guest here, you know, and I've been offered the opportunity to be in these people's lives for a moment, but their lives have been, you know, they've been around, and these places have been around for hundreds or thousands of years, and I'm just visiting. That's really cool.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's truly amazing. I love the detail of all of that. And actually, when I was watching the movie and seeing that moment with the festival, I tried like making this mental note because they do say the name of it, and I was like, okay, I want to research this because clearly I know this is a thing, and I really want to know more about this. Yeah, it was great. And it's funny too because it really reminded me a lot actually of Portugal, and being, you know, having a mother who's Portuguese and having visited Portugal, you know, all my life, especially as a kid, living in the north of Portugal. It's very similar, you know, these villages, and actually where my grandparents live, we have an abandoned train station right next to the house, which, you know, I remember one summer we did go inside and you know, walk the hallways and climb the stairs and have a look at this place. So it's, it really, I could really connect to that too. It's very European, and it's just, and it quite nostalgic in a way as well. What did you think of Josh O'Connor? Because we've just spoken about Josh O'Connor. He was in Challenges. Have you had a chance to see Challenges yet?
I haven't, no.
Super curious to see what you think. Super curious. Also because your twin is the co-lead in that, Mike Faced, I think. So, but yeah, he's clearly having a moment. What did you think about his character, his performance in this?
Yeah, I liked it. He's a very unique presence. He's got this unique look, this charming, sort of brooding kind of presence in this film that felt natural and understated, and the moments where some higher expression rose to the surface. It felt genuine and and pulled me in. It was like this nice ebb and flow that he was giving between just kind of being in the space and then allowing himself to kind of be moved by the situation. So I thought the performance was great. His character was really fascinating. The writing was wonderful. I really could relate and just at least empathize with where he was at, his deep sense of yearning and longing and loss and love and tragedy that were all mixed in and manifested in all of these different layers in the film. You know, some were like very attached to this narrative part of the story about him and his gang and what they're doing as far as, you know, the grave robbing and archaeology and so that in like a very grounded sense. And then it was manifesting also in this like memorial sense with some more abstract filmmaking with these interesting flashbacks,
These flashes
that weren't like literal at times, you know, the play that they were doing with the string from the dress was such an artful, poetic choice, and how
truly.
everything was so interweaved, you know. So like I felt like this character was experiencing these things on all these different levels that were all interconnected, and really just kept coming together in a way that, again, I felt was very moving and profound.
Oh, I'm so pleased.
Yeah.
I'm so pleased. Yeah, he was he was a hard it was a hard nut to crack. His character, he's very mysterious. I think by design, right? Mm-hmm. By design. Yeah, I think Josh O'Connor is great. Again, he's having a moment, and I really admire his choice to even do a film like this. I mean, where did this come from? You know, I understand you get big in a massive TV show like The Crown, and I understand you doing a role in a Luca Guadagnino movie, of course, and then this, you know, obscure Italian film playing this kind of role is just really, really an interesting thing to take on.
I respect it so much.
I really respect it. Yeah, I really respect it. And yeah, it's his character it's odd, right? Because he's got a gift. He's got this ability.
So interesting. The way that they're kind of playing with reality and also the supernatural.
Completely. And so it's kind of like, it's a strange thing because the movie makes it appear as if it's tethered to reality, I think.
Absolutely. Well, like you were saying,
right?
It's almost like, feels like a documentary in ways.
Yes.
Has that grounded feeling to it.
Yes. And then there are moments in which that reality is broken completely.
Yeah.
Which is so bold and so European, I guess, you know.
Well, it's cool just having that sense of the supernatural in such a grounded package.
Sure.
I was really was neat and unique and made me kind of feel more of a believer, you know, and like, you know, when he's walking around and he's using the rod to like divine where tombs are, like that's clearly a supernatural element, but again, like it's grounded in this really, you know, real tone, and it just kind of made me feel as an audience member, just even in my own life, this sense of like magic, you know, as being possible. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing, actually, because I can see that. I can see how you could buy into it more without it being so big and bombastic, you know?
Yeah, it's so unpretentious, which just gives me like this big sigh, you know, of relief. It's just so my style, you know. I just like all these moments, the magic, the movement, and the journey of the characters, the locations, the details. They're just, the film is just offering it to you on like a wooden plate, you know, at someone's countryside Italian home. You know what I mean? Like right. It's not played up at all. It doesn't ask you. I didn't feel like it was asking me to have any expectations or like feelings about it. It was just like someone's just, you know, I happen to be walking down the road and someone, hey, you want to share a meal? Come on in, and you know, in this really casual, simple, lovely way.
That is so perfect the way you've summed that up, and that is so perfect, and that is truly how I feel. Yeah, there's this thing with European movies, I guess, of of a certain ilk, where it's got this aloofness to it, and it's got this almost wandering sense of itself. It's not tethered to any sort of heavy plotting or conventional plotting, should I say. You can discard all of that and throw it out the window, and there's something so appealing about it. You said this at the very top. It was a breath of fresh air. And I have to concur with that. I have to concur with that. It's so to the point where, it feels like this filmmaker, and have you seen any of this filmmaker's previous work?
No, I haven't. First watch for me.
I guess I should have known what to expect, because I had seen her previous film, Happy as Lazaro, which came out a few years ago. And I know, I guess there was a fairly, big deal, awards consideration, all of this, and Cannes and all of that. And it's very similar in terms of its tone and aesthetic, and it's almost feeling like a documentary, and yet, lived in characters in a computer, and all of this kind of thing. So I guess I should have known what to expect, but I was still completely taken by surprise by this, to the point where it feels like she breaks all these rules of storytelling,
Yeah, I mean, breaks the fourth wall once.
Breaks the fourth wall once with a minor character, like on the fringes of things. Yeah. Just turning to the camera and looking straight down the lens and talking to us. That was like, whoa.
Yeah,
so
it's
bold.
cool because, like, sometimes I think we've chatted about this in about some other movies, where a director, someone makes a choice, like, oh, this would be really cool, and they throw it into the film, and it feels so jarring.
Sure.
To be like, whoa, like that didn't feel necessary for this story. But in this film, something like breaking the fourth wall, again, maybe just because everything felt so kind of understated, that when it happened, it just kind of felt like this sense of like freedom and play and like liberation that this director was having. Was just like, you know what, let's do, like, I think the moment calls for it, let's do this thing, why not? And so it didn't really pull me out of it. It just kind of made me smile a little bit,
Yeah, but isn't that such a fine line as
oh
a
god
filmmaker?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
For you to go sure as opposed to
Yeah.
It's
absolutely
really well played. Yeah, really well played. What did you? No, I don't want to to give too much away about this movie, because I truly think it's just a wonderful surprise to just go in cold.
Absolutely, yeah. Highly recommend.
But the final images of the movie. I mean, what was that?
Oh goodness. I mean, it really spoke to me. I felt like it just brought the undertone and the pulse of this character, Arthur, into the reality of the film, in just showing how trapped he is by his longing, and having him come into and showing how kind of dark of a place he's in, and I don't know, I felt like too he was able to come to a place of resolution, in a sense, with that image of like that separation that happens, and then afterwards we come out of this dark place into this very bright place, with this other character that he's been really seems like he's been seeking the whole film, and that's why has his gift. That's why he's doing these things that he's doing. He feels so motivated by his heart. Like his lifestyle feels so motivated by what his heart is going through. And so the ending felt tragic, you know, because he like walked away from another beautiful opportunity, you know, shortly before, and at the same time, it did feel like a sort of resolution, but again, like he still seems trapped at the end of the film, trapped in the past, trapped in this chimera that he's seeking, that he can't find, because it's impossible to find, you know. So yeah, a mix of things, but ultimately I felt it felt fairly tragic, but in a way I guess that feels like it was also honoring like a human experience and something that so many of us feel and go through, honoring it in a way that was like respectful and just acknowledging that, like, yes, it's tragic and it's also beautiful. This like sense of like love and loss that we have and yearning.
Dude, I honestly, I need to watch these movies alongside you, and I need to be able to pause it and ask you what is going on. That was beautiful. You've just opened up that entire final scene for me.
Oh, wonderful.
You've
Did you get my little cryptic
yes.
code I was speaking to not give it away?
Absolutely, yeah. It's perfect. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But just to say, trapped by his longing. And that dichotomy and the tragicness and yet the beauty. Okay. Completely opened it up. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
That's love. Yeah. Because it's funny because the final moment of the movie is so metaphysical, right? There is literally
totally
again
ungrounded from the reality that we've been seeing. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, thank you for that.
Hey,
I can always count on you, sir. Yeah. Excellent. Well, so pairings. What would you pair this strange little movie with?
I feel like it could go with so much because it feels like such a universal story that I know has been explored in so many different ways. And it's also like such a unique film that I had a hard time coming up with a pairing just because I almost felt like I was taking away from its like charming uniqueness to pair it with something else that maybe was a similar story or exploring a similar thing, but just done in such a different way.
Sure.
But I think ultimately, you know, I'm so enamored with Tarkovsky, and even though Stalker is such a different film, the yearning of the stalker and of the other characters in the film, but in particularly of the stalker, and the journey he goes on, the destination he comes to, and that mix of beauty and tragedy, and dark and light, remind me a lot of what happens with La Chimera.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. You know, I really love doing these pairings with you and Ian because sometimes you guys just come up with something where it's like, it's completely, I never could have got there. That's great. That's great.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, again, similar situation, dude. I was like, this movie is so unique. What can it possibly... However, I did have a feeling while watching this movie, it reminded me of something, and that is the TV series My Brilliant Friend.
Huh,
I don't know
I've
if
never
you've
heard of it, actually. No.
It's a HBO series in the US, so maybe that means it was on Sky Atlantic over here in the UK. It's based on a series of novels by this Italian writer Elena Ferrante, and I believe the series is called Neapolitan Novels. And it's an Italian series, a coming of age story about these two friends growing up in 1950s Naples. And one friend is like a bookworm, you know, sort of like study student, like really into her studies and getting to college and all of this. And her other friend is more of a wild at heart kind of character, just, you know, isn't too interested in that, just wants to explore life. And so that dynamic between the two of them growing up, and it's lovely in its sense of period detail, and again, all the things I loved about this movie in terms of its location, production design, and just the whole Italianness of it all. And it's got a beautiful score by the German composer Max Richter, who composed the music for The Leftovers, one of my favorite TV series of all time. Yeah, it's a beautiful score, and I highly recommend watching the show. The first season is gorgeous, the cinematography's lovely, and then here's the thing, right? I'm watching this movie and I'm like, this kind of reminds me of My Brilliant Friend. I look into Alice Rohrwacher's filmography. She directed 2 episodes of season 2. And I'm like, well, there you go.
Very cool.
Well, there you go.
Nice sense, man. Nice.
I felt like, you know,
making sense there. Yeah, that's cool.
I'm watching this, but if those who are listening, if you haven't seen the movie, you won't get this, but it was me watching the movie, putting 2 sticks together and kind of feeling my way to this pairing.
Yeah. Very cool. I love that.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Nice, man. I'll definitely have to check it out, because I definitely want more of this. And we didn't get into the soundtrack, but I will say, just to piggyback of what you were saying about your pairing, I really enjoyed all of the music in this, both the stuff that was like physically like in the scenes, and also the soundtrack that they overlaid over some other stuff. Okay,
that's interesting. Yeah, because I didn't really clock it.
See, that's why I like it. Right? And
that's why you like
that's
it.
Why
exactly.
It just complements, right? It's just this nice little complementary vibe.
and sometimes that's exactly what's required, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's great. And speaking to the music that plays throughout, almost like commenting on the characters and the storyline itself, and playing the accordion and having it reminded me a lot of the opening of this Breaking Bad episode, where they just for a moment talk about the rise and fall of Heisenberg, and then that's the cold open and then opening credits. It was great.
Yeah,
it's so great.
Yeah, and the two songs that they worked in as well were really fun. Maybe fun's not the right word, but it felt just very like this really poetic way of elaborating in a different way on the events, on the community, on the perspectives of the characters and the gang, in this just this other medium, Totally. Yeah.
So illuminating and so creative. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, listen, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Again, I was still trying to work out how I feel about the movie. Having spoken to you, I feel even better about it than I already did.
Nice.
And it's a pleasure to have you back, sir.
It's really good to be here. Thanks for chatting, man. This was really fun.
Of course, always, anytime. All right, I want to give a special thanks to the Phoenix Cinema. Our music is by Stefan Krieger, and our episodes are edited by Noah Anderson. Once again, if anyone is interested in following our film club and the movies we watch on there, you can have a look at our Instagram page, The Film Geeks, to see what we're watching, rating, and awarding. And as always, everybody, if you want to go watch a movie, head to the Phoenix Cinema, and I will meet you there.